I stood in the doorway of Marcello's, scanning the dining room for my son. Thursday evening, 7 o'clock, the place packed with couples and business groups. Derek had called Tuesday, suggested dinner, just the two of us. Hadn't seen him in 3 weeks, so I said yes. Then I spotted him at a corner booth, not alone. His wife Jessica sat beside him, phone already out. 2 other people I didn't recognize sat across from them. All 4 watching me approach. Something felt wrong. Derek stood as I reached the table, smiled that professional smile he uses with clients. "You must be tired from the drive, Dad. Sit down." We ordered appetizers. I sat. Derek introduced the other 2, Mark and Catherine, colleagues from MedTech Solutions. They worked in his division. Mark asked about my years at GM Canada, seemed genuinely interested. Catherine mentioned her father had been an engineer too. The conversation flowed easily enough. Bruschetta arrived, then calamari. We talked about quality control processes, about how manufacturing had changed since I retired. I started to relax. Maybe I'd imagined that feeling at the door. We were halfway through our entrees when Derek set down his fork and stood up. The table went quiet. Mark and Catherine stopped eating. Jessica pulled out her phone, held it up, pointed it at me. "Dad," Derek said, his voice carrying across nearby tables, "I need to talk to you about something important." I looked up at him. "What is it?" "It's about your driving." "My driving?" Derek reached across the table. His hand closed around my car keys, sitting beside my water glass where I'd set them when I sat down. He picked them up, held them in his fist. "I'm concerned about your safety," he said. "You're 72 now. Reaction times aren't what they were. I know this is uncomfortable, but it's the right thing to do." I reached for the keys. Derek pulled his hand back. "Derek," I said, "I have a perfect driving record. 48 years, 0 accidents, 0 tickets. Dad, you get confused sometimes. Everyone understands. We'll drive you where you need to go. I don't get confused." Jessica giggled behind her phone, still filming. Derek glanced at Mark and Catherine. They nodded, supportive expressions on their faces like they'd rehearsed this. "This is what responsible family leadership looks like," Derek said to them. "Sometimes you have to make the hard calls for your family's safety." Other diners were watching now. Conversations stopped at nearby tables. A waiter paused mid-step, tray balanced on his palm. Derek pocketed my keys. I felt my face go hot. "Give those back. We'll talk more this weekend, Dad." Derek signaled to the others. They stood, gathering coats and phones. "You can call an Uber. It's easy. I'll show you how. I know how to call an Uber." "Good." Derek leaned down, patted my shoulder like I was a child. "This is for the best, you'll see." He walked away. Jessica followed, still holding up her phone, filming over her shoulder as they left. Mark and Catherine trailed behind, Mark glancing back once with something that might have been sympathy or might have been pity. I sat alone at the table, 4 half-finished plates of food. My water glass sweating condensation onto the tablecloth. The restaurant slowly returning to normal volume as people decided the show was over. The waiter approached carefully. "Can I get you anything else, sir?" "Just the check." He brought it, I paid, left a good tip. Not his fault my son decided to humiliate me in his restaurant. I pulled out my phone, opened the Uber app, requested a ride. Estimated arrival, 12 minutes. I waited outside on the sidewalk. Cold November air, breath visible in the streetlight. Couples walked past holding hands. Families headed to their cars, kids running ahead while parents called after them to slow down. The Uber arrived. A Honda Civic driver named Mohammed. He asked if I'd had a good evening. I said it was fine. We drove in silence. He dropped me at 413 Birchwood Drive. I thanked him, walked up the driveway past the empty spot where my Volvo should have been parked. Unlocked the front door, hung my coat in the closet, stood in the darkened living room. 48 years. Not one ticket. Not one accident. I taught Derek to drive in that empty parking lot behind the old Safeway, patient summer afternoons when he was 16. Always check your mirrors, son. Signal early. Driving is a privilege, not a right. I walked to the garage, opened the side door, flipped the light switch. The charging cable Derek had installed 3 years ago still hung on the wall. Empty concrete where the Tesla used to sit when he lived here, before he got married and moved to that development across town. The Tesla I'd bought him, $80,217, massive red bow on the hood, best father ever, he'd said. I stood there looking at that empty space for a long time. Then I went inside to make coffee. tomorrow was Friday. I'd sleep on this, figure out what to do in the morning. But standing in my kitchen at 9:47 that night, I already knew one thing for certain. Derek had badly miscalculated who held the power here. He just didn't know it yet. I woke up Friday at 6:30 like always. Made coffee, poured it into my usual travel mug, then remembered no car to take it to Tim Hortons. I stood at the kitchen counter drinking it there instead, looking out the window at the driveway. The empty space where the Volvo should have been parked felt wrong. 48 years of driving, and my son had decided I was too incompetent to continue. Just like that, no discussion, no actual concern, just a performance for his colleagues. I finished the coffee, rinsed the mug, set it in the dish rack. Then I walked to the garage. The charging cable hung on the wall where Derek had mounted it 3 years ago. Black cord coiled neatly, connector gleaming in the overhead light. He'd been so excited about that Tesla. Showed me all the features, the acceleration, the phone app that controlled everything. This is the future, Dad. This is what real engineering looks like now. I stared at that cable for a long moment, then something shifted in my chest. Not anger exactly, more like clarity. I went to my office, opened the filing cabinet, second drawer, everything alphabetized. I pulled the folder labeled Tesla Derek 2021. Inside. Purchase receipt, title document, insurance policy, registration renewals. I sat down at my desk, spread the papers out. The receipt showed $80,217 paid from my checking account at TD Canada Trust on June 15, 2021. Tesla dealership in Oakville. I remembered that day, Derek's face when he saw the car in his office parking lot, that enormous red bow I'd tied around it myself. The title document was next. I read it slowly, carefully, the way I'd read technical specifications for 40 years at GM. Owner, Robert James Ashford, 413 Birchwood Drive, Oakville, Ontario. No co-owner listed, no transfer of ownership noted. Just my name. I pulled out the insurance policy. Belair Direct policy number 7384921. Policyholder, Robert James Ashford. Permitted driver, Derek Michael Ashford. Permitted driver, not owner, not co-insured. Just permitted. I sat back in my chair, looked at Paula's photo on my desk. She'd been gone 4 years now, cancer taking her 3 months after diagnosis. She never saw this side of Derek. Maybe that was a blessing. My throat went tight. I remembered teaching Derek to drive. Summer of 1998, him 16 years old, nervous behind the wheel. Patient afternoons in that empty parking lot, me talking him through every step. You're doing great, son. Just take your time. Driving is about being careful, being responsible, respecting the rules. Where did that boy go? I wiped my eyes roughly, forced myself to focus. The registration renewals were paper-clipped together. Every March for 3 years, the notices had come to my address. I'd handled them automatically, paying the fees online, filing the confirmation. Derek had never asked about registration, never checked the glove box for the paperwork, never questioned why the renewal notices didn't come to his house. He'd assumed. That was his mistake. I opened my phone, found the Tesla app. I'd set it up at purchase, created the primary account, added the vehicle to my profile. Derek had never asked for account access. He just used Apple CarPlay for his music, never bothering with Tesla's actual systems. I logged in. The app opened immediately. Vehicle information loaded. 3 years of data. I started scrolling. GPS history, charging records, driving events, speed logs. March 12, 2022. Speeding violation, Highway 401, 134 kilometers per hour in a 100 zone. August 3, 2022. Speeding violation, Regional Road, 87 kilometers per hour in a 60 zone. December 19, 2022. Speeding violation, Highway 403, 141 kilometers per hour in a 100 zone. I kept scrolling. May 28, 2023. Speeding violation, local street, 73 kilometers per hour in a 50 zone. September 14, 2023. Speeding violation, Highway 401, 128 kilometers per hour in a 100 zone. 5 tickets, 5, in 3 years. I had 0 tickets in 48 years. The hard braking events were next. 47 instances flagged as aggressive driving. Sudden stops, rapid deceleration, the kind of driving that wears brake pads and raises insurance premiums. Then I found the accident report. March 20th, 2024. Collision detected, minor impact, rear-ended another vehicle at intersection. No police report filed. Derek had never mentioned an accident, not once. I sat at my desk, phone in hand, looking at 3 years of evidence. My son, who just publicly declared me incompetent to drive, had accumulated 5 speeding tickets, 47 aggressive driving incidents, and 1 unreported accident while driving a car he thought belonged to him. A car that was legally mine, that I paid to insure, that I maintained and registered, a car I could take back any time I wanted. I set the phone down carefully, looked at the documents spread across my desk, looked at Paula's photo again. She would have known how to handle this better. She was the one who could always reach Derek, could always find the right words. But Paula was gone, and I was sitting here alone with proof that my son had not only humiliated me publicly, but had been lying by omission for 3 years. I picked up my phone again, scrolled through contacts, found Vincent Calabrese. Vincent was an attorney, car enthusiast. We'd met in 1995 through a classic car club, stayed friends after. He was semi-retired now, took only select cases, drove a restored 1972 Alfa Romeo Spider he maintained himself. I pressed call, 3 rings. Vincent's voice, Robert, everything okay? Vincent, I said, I need some legal advice about a vehicle I own. What kind of vehicle? A 2021 Tesla Model S, title's in my name. Someone else has been driving it. Who? My son, and I want it back. Vincent's office was on the 2nd floor of a small professional building downtown, mahogany furniture and framed vintage racing posters covering the walls. He'd been practicing automotive and contract law for 40 years, same as I'd been engineering vehicles. We understood each other. Monday morning, 9 o'clock, I sat across from his desk with my folder. Vincent poured coffee from a French press into ceramic mugs, not the disposable cups most offices used. He slid one across to me, then settled into his leather chair, reading glasses already sliding down his nose. Show me what you've got, Robert. I opened the folder, spread the documents across his desk in order. Purchase receipt, title, insurance policy, registration renewals, printed screenshots from the Tesla app. Vincent read through everything slowly. 40 years of legal training meant he never rushed. He picked up the title first, studied it, set it down. Moved to the insurance policy, traced his finger down the coverage details, examined the app printouts, lingering on the speeding violations. Finally, he looked up at me. You own this vehicle outright. No question. Can I take it back? It's your property. He's a permitted driver on your insurance, not an owner. You can revoke that permission anytime. He leaned back, tapped the speeding ticket printouts. These are all documented through the Tesla system. I still have primary account access. Derek never bothered setting up his own account, so I can see everything. 3 years of driving data. Vincent whistled low. 5 tickets in 36 months, and he's been representing this as his car. I pulled out my phone, opened Derek's Facebook profile, turned the screen toward Vincent. Multiple posts over 3 years. Photos of Derek standing beside the Tesla, captions like "Love my new ride" and "My baby," and 3 years and still perfect. Vincent scrolled through them, his expression unreadable. Robert, legally you're crystal clear. This is your vehicle, your title, your insurance. He paused. Morally, though, this is your son. I know you could just ask him to return it. I did. In that restaurant Thursday night, I asked for my keys back. He refused. Told me I was confused, told an entire restaurant I was incompetent. Then he left me there to find my own way home. Vincent set the phone down carefully. What are you thinking? I want the vehicle returned. If he refuses, I want to repossess it. Vincent was quiet for a long moment. I've known you 29 years, Robert. I've never seen you this angry. I'm not angry. I'm done being disrespected by someone who thinks I'm too old to know what I own. He studied me over his reading glasses. What did Derek say when you told him you still have the title? I haven't told him yet. You haven't. Vincent stopped, started again, so he still thinks it's his car. He's never checked the paperwork, never asked why insurance cards come to my address, never questioned why I handle registration renewals. He assumed the gift meant automatic ownership transfer. It didn't. Vincent pulled a legal pad toward him, started writing. I can draft a formal demand letter, certified mail, gives him 48 hours to return the vehicle to your address. If he doesn't comply, you hire a repossession service. All perfectly legal. Do it. Robert, do it, Vincent. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. I'll have the draft by this afternoon. You'll review it, approve it, and we'll send it certified mail. He glanced at the calendar on his desk. If I send it Thursday morning, he'll have it Friday. 48 hours from receipt puts the deadline at Sunday evening, and if he doesn't return it, then you authorize repossession. Vincent tapped his pen against the legal pad. Where does Derek work? MedTech Solutions, Regional Sales Manager, Modern Office Complex on Winston Road. Vincent made a note. When does he usually arrive? Around 8:30. Parks in the executive section, reserved spot up front. Vincent looked up sharply. You want it repossessed from his workplace. He humiliated me in a public restaurant in front of his colleagues and strangers. If this has to happen, it happens where people can see it. Robert, he chose a public setting to take my independence. I'm choosing a public setting to take back what's mine. Vincent set down his pen. This will destroy his reputation at work. His reputation is built on lies. The car he drives to impress people isn't his. The story he tells about his confused elderly father isn't true. I have a perfect driving record. He has 5 tickets. If his reputation can't survive the truth, that's not my problem. The office was quiet except for the ticking of an antique desk clock on the bookshelf. All right, Vincent said finally. I'll make the arrangements. But I'm telling you now, as your friend, not your attorney, this is going to change things between you and Derek permanently. Things changed Thursday night when he pocketed my keys and walked away. Vincent nodded slowly, picked up his pen again, started drafting. I spent the rest of that week in a strange routine, walking to the grocery store instead of driving. Accepting my neighbor Mrs. Chen's offer to pick up a few things when she went shopping. Sitting at home in the evenings, looking at that empty spot in the driveway. Tuesday evening, Derek called. His voice was cheerful. Hey, Dad. How are you managing without a car? Need me to take you anywhere? I'm managing fine, Derek. See. You're adapting. This is good for you. Keeps you active, walking places. Probably healthier anyway. I said nothing. I'm thinking we could set up a regular schedule. I can drive you to appointments, grocery shopping, whatever you need. We'll make it work. That's not necessary. Dad, it's no trouble. I want to help. I don't need help, Derek. I need my car keys. His tone shifted. We talked about this. It's not safe. You have 5 speeding tickets. Silence on the other end. I kept going. 141 kilometers per hour on Highway 403. 87 in a 60 zone on a regional road. You rear-ended someone in March and never filed a police report. But I'm the unsafe driver. How do you? Derek stopped himself. How do I know? Because I pay attention, Derek. Always have. He hung up. Wednesday, Vincent emailed me the draft demand letter. I read it 3 times, approved it. Thursday morning, he sent it certified mail to Derek's home address. Thursday afternoon, I created a Facebook account. Used an old photo of myself, added my name, sent friend requests to a few people I knew from the Legion Hall. Then I searched for Derek's profile and added him too. His privacy settings let anyone follow him, hundreds of friends, most of whom he probably didn't know personally. He accepted my request that evening. Probably didn't even notice it among all his other notifications. I scrolled through 3 years of posts. The Tesla featured prominently, dozens of photos, captions bragging about the car, about his success, about his lifestyle, comments from colleagues and friends telling him how lucky he was, how successful, how impressive. I took screenshots of everything. Friday afternoon, my phone rang. Derek, his voice was tight with anger. What the hell is this letter? A request for return of my property. That's my car. You gave it to me. Check the title, Derek, my name. Not yours. This is insane. You can't even drive anymore. Why do you need 2 cars? I need 1 car. You took mine. I'm taking mine back. You're tracking me. I have 5 speeding tickets. That's invasion of privacy. It's my car, Derek, my insurance, my app, my data, all legally mine. This is a pathetic power play from someone who has no power. 48 hours, Derek. Return the Tesla to my driveway or I'll have it repossessed. His laugh was harsh. You wouldn't dare. You're bluffing. Try me. Dad, you have until Sunday evening. 5 o'clock. You're going to destroy our relationship over a car. You destroyed our relationship when you humiliated me in that restaurant. The car is just the consequence. I hung up. Saturday, nothing. Sunday, nothing. My driveway remained empty. Sunday evening at 5:30, I called Vincent. He didn't return it. Vincent sighed. Then we proceed. I'll connect you with a repossession service I trust. Professional outfit does everything by the book. He paused. You're sure about this? I'm sure. When do you want it done? Tuesday morning. 11:30, his workplace parking lot. Robert, he performs for those people. Vincent. He took my keys to impress them. Let them watch what happens when someone performs without checking the paperwork first. Vincent was quiet for a long moment. I'll make the arrangements. The service will contact you Monday with details. You'll need to provide them with the title, insurance documentation, and written authorization. They'll handle the rest. Will I need to be there? You don't have to be, but if you want to be, they won't stop you. I want to be there. All right. Vincent's voice was resigned. I'll let them know. Monday morning, a man named James from Elite Vehicle Recovery called. Professional voice, matter-of-fact tone. He needed copies of my documentation, which I emailed. He explained the process. Verify VIN, place legal notice on windshield, photograph vehicle, load onto flatbed, transport to location I specified. The whole thing would take maybe 15 minutes. Where do you want the vehicle taken? James asked. My address, 413 Birchwood Drive, and you'll meet us at the recovery location. Yes, James gave me the timing. 11:25 a.m. arrival, 11:30 a.m. start of repossession. The address I'd provided, MedTech Solutions on Winston Road, showed executive parking visible from the building's main entrance. Understood, James said. We'll see you Tuesday morning, Mr. Ashford. I hung up. Looked at the documents spread across my desk one more time. Title, insurance, app data, screenshots, demand letter, certified mail receipt. Everything in order. Everything legal, everything documented. Tuesday morning I would take back what was mine, and Derek would learn that quiet doesn't mean powerless. Tuesday morning I dressed carefully. Clean khaki slacks, button-down shirt, my good jacket. Combed my hair, shaved, looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. 72 years old. Every one of those years earned. I drove. Mrs. Chen had loaned me her Civic for the morning to MedTech Solutions, arriving at 11:15. The office complex was exactly as I remembered from the one time Derek had invited me to a company barbecue 3 years ago. Modern 3-story glass building, professionally landscaped entrance, executive parking section, directly in front with assigned spaces. I parked across the street in a public lot where I could see everything. At 11:23, a white flatbed truck turned into the complex. Elite Vehicle Recovery printed on the side in blue letters. Professional, clean, no mistaking what it was. The truck pulled into the lot slowly, circling once. I watched it stop near the executive spaces. 2 men got out, both wearing dark blue uniforms with company logos. One carried a clipboard, the other a camera. I got out of Mrs. Chen's car, crossed the street, walked toward them. The man with the clipboard looked up as I approached. Mr. Ashford, Robert, I shook his hand. This is James, he nodded. This is my colleague Tony. He'll handle documentation while I operate the truck. He gestured toward the parking spaces. That the vehicle, I followed his gaze. The Tesla sat in a spot marked Regional Sales Manager D. Ashford in white painted letters. Black paint gleaming in the November sun, chrome wheels perfect, not a scratch visible. That's it. James walked over, crouched beside the front bumper, compared the VIN plate to his paperwork. Tony photographed the vehicle from multiple angles, documenting its condition. James placed a legal notice on the windshield. Vehicle repossession, registered owner authorization in large block letters. I stood near the truck, folder under my arm, watching them work. Professional, methodical, everything by procedure. Then movement in the building caught my eye. 3rd floor, corner office. A figure at the window. Too far to see details, but I knew the layout from that barbecue. Regional manager offices were on the 3rd floor, corner positions for the senior staff. The figure moved away from the window. James was positioning the flatbed, backing it toward the Tesla, when the building's front doors burst open. Derek ran out, no coat, no phone visible, just him in dress pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. His face was pale. Stop, his voice carried across the parking lot. What are you doing? James straightened calmly, clipboard in hand. Legal repossession, sir. Registered owner authorization. Derek's eyes found me standing near the truck. His expression shifted from panic to fury. Dad, you can't do this. This is my workplace. I kept my voice level. I'm the titled owner. You were given 48 hours to return it. This is insane. You're embarrassing me at work, like you embarrassed me at Marcello's. That was for your safety. I opened my folder, pulled out the documents I'd prepared, walked closer so Derek could see them clearly. This is my car, Derek. I bought it, I insure it, I maintain it, my name on every document. I held up the title first. Owner, Robert James Ashford. Derek grabbed for the folder. I stepped back smoothly. Tony moved slightly closer, not interfering but present. Sir James said to Derek, don't interfere with illegal repossession. Behind Derek, the building's front doors opened again. 3 people emerged, clearly on lunch break. They stopped when they saw the scene. One of them I recognized from the restaurant, Mark, Derek's colleague. He pulled out his phone, then more people. A cluster of employees heading out, stopping to watch. Someone else with a phone out, recording. Derek turned, saw them, turned back to me. His voice dropped to a harsh whisper. Please, can we discuss this privately? I kept my normal volume. Like you discussed taking my keys privately. No, Derek, you made this public. This is public, more people now. Maybe a dozen employees standing near the entrance. Some pointing, some filming. None of them intervening, all of them watching. Then a woman emerged. Late 50s, silver hair and a sharp bob, wearing a tailored charcoal suit. She walked with the bearing of someone used to authority. She stopped about 15 feet away, arms crossed, observing. Derek saw her. His face went even paler. Susan, this is a misunderstanding. My father, I turned to the woman. Susan, you must be Derek's supervisor. I'm Robert Ashford. This vehicle is titled in my name. Derek has been driving it as a permitted user on my insurance policy. I'm revoking that permission. I walked closer, offered her the printouts I'd prepared. Insurance policy showing Derek as permitted driver only, title showing my sole ownership. And the Tesla app data, 5 speeding tickets over 3 years, 47 aggressive driving incidents, 1 unreported accident in March. Susan took the papers, scanned them quickly. Her expression remained neutral, professional, but I saw her eyes linger on the speeding violations. Derek, she said, voice level, is this your father? Yes, but the father you told us agreed to stop driving. I never agreed to anything. Derek took my car keys at a restaurant and left me there. Susan's gaze moved from the papers to Derek. She didn't say anything, just looked at him. Derek's voice was desperate now. Dad, please. I have a promotion meeting this afternoon, I know. That's why you performed at Marcello's, isn't it? To show Mark and Catherine what responsible leadership looks like. More employees had gathered, whispers rippling through the group. Mark said something to the person next to him, too quiet for me to hear. I turned back to Derek, spoke quietly but clearly enough that everyone nearby could hear. You told people I'm confused, unsafe, a burden. You said I get lost, I forget things, I'm dangerous on the road. Dad, I never said I have a perfect driving record, 48 years, 0 accidents, 0 tickets. You have 5 tickets in 36 months. I held up the printout showing the violations. March 22, speeding on Highway 401. August 22, residential street, 87 in a 60 zone. December 22, 141 kilometers per hour on a highway. May 23, September 23. The murmurs grew louder. Someone in the crowd, a younger man, maybe 30, spoke to his companion. He took his dad's keys but was driving his dad's car. James approached. Sir, we need to complete the repossession. Do you need to remove any personal items from the vehicle? Derek stood frozen for a moment, then walked to the Tesla like a man approaching an execution. He opened the driver's door, pulled out a gym bag from the back seat, a travel coffee mug from the cup holder, a leather portfolio from the passenger seat. He held these items against his chest, watching as Tony and James secured the Tesla to the flatbed. The hydraulic lift whined as it raised the front wheels off the pavement. The distinctive hum echoed off the glass building facade. The crowd of employees was larger now, 20 people, maybe more, all watching, several phones still recording. Susan hadn't moved, still holding my documentation, still watching her regional manager being repossessed. I walked closer to Derek. close enough that my voice didn't need to carry, but not so close that others couldn't hear if they listened. You confused my quiet nature for weakness, my age for incompetence, my generosity for dependency. Those were your mistakes, not mine. Derek's eyes were red. Dad, you don't get to take someone's independence and then act surprised when they take back what's theirs. I turned away, walked to the passenger side of the flatbed. James had the Tesla secured now, chains tight, wheels locked in place. I climbed into the passenger seat of the truck. Through the window, I could see Derek standing in the parking lot. Gym bag at his feet, travel mug in one hand, portfolio in the other. His reserved parking space empty now except for the hydraulic fluid stain where the lift had been. Susan still watching from her position near the entrance. The crowd of employees slowly beginning to disperse, some heading back inside, some walking toward the parking lot, many still on their phones, texting, posting, sharing. Mark stood near the entrance, phone down now, staring at Derek with an expression I couldn't quite read. Not sympathy, something colder. James climbed into the driver's seat, started the engine. "Ready, Mr. Ashford," I nodded. The flatbed pulled forward slowly, navigating out of the executive parking section. As we turned toward the exit, I glanced back one more time. Derek hadn't moved. Still standing there, holding his belongings, watching the truck carry away the car he'd driven for 3 years. The car he'd thought was his. The car he'd photographed dozens of times, posted about constantly, used as proof of his success. Susan had turned away, walking back toward the building entrance. She didn't look at Derek as she passed him. The flatbed turned onto Winston Road, the Tesla secure on the back, and I settled into the passenger seat. James drove carefully, obeying every traffic law, signaling well in advance of every turn. We didn't speak until we were several blocks away. "Everything go according to your expectations?" James asked. I looked out the window at the suburban streets passing by. Trees losing their last leaves, autumn ending, winter coming. "Yes," I said, "exactly according to expectations." James nodded. "We'll have the vehicle at your address within the hour. You'll need to sign the transfer documentation, confirm receipt. I understand. And Mr. Ashford," James glanced at me briefly before returning his eyes to the road. "I've been doing this job 12 years. Repossessed a lot of vehicles for a lot of reasons." He paused. "That was the most deserved one I've ever done." I didn't respond. Just watched the familiar streets roll past, heading toward Birchwood Drive, heading home with what was mine. Behind us, Derek was probably still standing in that parking lot, still holding his gym bag and coffee mug, still trying to explain to colleagues why a repo truck had just taken his car. Still realizing that the promotion meeting scheduled for this afternoon was probably not going to go the way he'd planned. Still learning that assumptions have consequences, and that quiet doesn't mean powerless. The flatbed turned onto my street. I could see my house ahead, the driveway where the Tesla would soon sit, where Derek had installed that charging cable 3 years ago, so proud of his new car. My car, always my car. James pulled into the driveway, began the process of unloading. I climbed out, stood on the concrete, watched the hydraulic lift lower the Tesla's front wheels back to the ground. My phone buzzed, text message, "Derek," I didn't open it. Whatever he had to say now, he could have said Sunday before the deadline. He could have said last Friday when he received the demand letter. He could have said Thursday night in that restaurant before pocketing my keys. He'd made his choices. This was the consequence. I signed James's paperwork, thanked him and Tony for their professionalism, watched the flatbed drive away. Then I stood alone in my driveway, looking at the Tesla, black paint reflecting the afternoon sun. Chrome perfect, not a scratch, mine. I went inside to make lunch. I had things to do this afternoon, groceries to buy, errands to run, and now I had a car to do them in. The video was everywhere by Wednesday morning. Bill called me at 8:15, his voice carrying that particular tone of someone trying not to laugh but failing. "Robert, have you seen LinkedIn?" "No." "Why?" "Someone posted video of yesterday. It's got about 2,000 views already." Derek's colleagues are commenting. I sat down at my kitchen table, coffee going cold in front of me. "What are they saying?" Bill read a few. "This is what happens when you don't read the fine print. Leadership means honesty, not this. He took his dad's keys but drove his dad's car. There's more." A lot more. I closed my eyes. Part of me felt satisfaction. Most of me felt tired. I checked Derek's Facebook later that morning. His post from Friday, the one about making tough choices for parents' safety, was gone, deleted. But the comments on his other posts had multiplied. People he probably didn't even know well were asking questions. Hey man, what happened at your office yesterday? Is it true about the Tesla? Did you really take your father's car keys? He wasn't responding to any of them. Thursday morning, Bill called again. This time his voice was different, more serious. Heard through the grapevine Derek's promotion meeting got rescheduled. Susan from upper management requested HR involvement. What does that mean? Bill hesitated. MedTech provides company vehicles for some positions, right? Sales managers who do DMOS, transport medical equipment. Driving record matters for insurance purposes. 5 tickets in 3 years, unreported accident. That's liability territory. I hadn't thought about that. You think they're going to fire him, not fire. But that promotion he was performing for. Regional director role involves a lot more travel, company vehicle, client transport. Bill paused. Word is they're reviewing whether his judgment aligns with the position requirements. Friday afternoon, I learned Derek didn't get the promotion. Mrs. Chen mentioned it when she stopped by with mail that had been delivered to her house by mistake. She'd heard through her daughter, who worked in HR at a different medical company but knew people at MedTech. Small professional community in our suburb. They told him his driving record raised concerns, Mrs. Chen said, handing me the mail. Also something about character and honesty. She looked at me carefully. He'll stay in his current position but no advancement. I nodded slowly. Took the mail. How do you feel about that? She asked. I don't know yet. That evening, Jessica called. Her voice was sharp, angry, none of the artificial sweetness she usually used around me. You ruined Derek's career. Do you have any idea what you've done? I took back my property. He was trying to help you. He was worried about you. By humiliating me in front of strangers, by lying about my competence. That's not help, Jessica. That's control. You're a vindictive old man. I'm a man who owns his property and expects basic respect. Goodbye, Jessica. I ended the call before she could respond. Over the following weeks, information trickled in through Bill, through Mrs. Chen, through Tom at the Wednesday card games at the Legion Hall. Derek needed a vehicle immediately for work. His insurance quote came back at $940 per month, 3 times the normal rate for someone his age. The 5 tickets and unreported accident had consequences. He'd ended up financing a used Honda Civic, $15,000 at 8% interest over 5 years. The contrast was visible to everyone who knew him. 3 weeks ago, $80,000 Tesla. Now 10-year-old Civic with a dent in the rear quarter panel. Tom mentioned seeing Jessica's Instagram change. Fewer posts about luxury lifestyle, fewer couple photos. The ones she did post had a forced quality, comments asking if everything was okay. Bill said Derek's lunch group at work had shifted. The 2 colleagues from the restaurant, Mark and Catherine, had distanced themselves professionally. Derek ate alone in his office now, Bill had heard. Someone had nicknamed him Keys behind his back, though most people had the decency not to say it to his face. The social consequences spread quietly but thoroughly. Office culture had shifted around Derek. He was no longer seen as leadership material, just a regional manager who'd probably stay regional manager until he left or retired. 3 weeks after the repossession, Derek sent a text message. Can we talk? I looked at it for a long time before responding. When you're ready to apologize properly, in person, without excuses. No response came. I settled into a new routine. Drove the Volvo to the grocery store, to the hardware store, to Wednesday card games. Kept the Tesla in the garage, mostly unused. I decided to sell it, keeping it felt wrong, like holding on to something that had too much hurt attached. Mrs. Chen stopped by one afternoon with casserole, sat at my kitchen table drinking tea. My son keeps hinting I should move to assisted living, she said. I'm 63. After hearing what happened with Derek, I told him to mind his business. How'd he take that? Not well, but he's thinking twice now before suggesting I'm too old to manage my own life. Good. She looked at me over her teacup. How are you really doing, Robert? I thought about that. Most days fine, some days sad. I taught Derek to drive. Patient afternoons in empty parking lots. Never imagined I'd be teaching him about ownership and respect at 72. You did what you had to do. Doesn't make it feel good. Tom from the Legion Hall had a different perspective. Stopped by after card games one Wednesday, stood in my driveway looking at the Volvo. My daughter tried similar nonsense last year, Tom said. Wanted to take my truck keys, said I was too old. I told her I'd outlive her at this rate. Some kids need to learn the hard way. You still talk to her, once a month, carefully. She knows where the line is now, that's something. It's not what it was before, but it's something. I listed the Tesla for private sale in early December. Professional photos, detailed maintenance records, full disclosure about the vehicle history. Priced it fairly, not trying to make a profit, just recover most of what I'd paid. A young couple came to look at it the following Saturday. Late 20s, expecting their first child in March. The husband was an engineer at a tech startup. They'd been saving for 3 years. It's beautiful, the wife said, running her hand along the hood. We test drove one at the dealership but couldn't afford new. I showed them all the documentation. Title, service records, charging history. Answered their questions honestly. Told them I'd maintained it carefully, that it had been driven regularly but not abused. I left out the speeding tickets, but the vehicle itself was in excellent condition. They made an offer I accepted. The transaction completed the following Tuesday. They drove away in the Tesla, excited about their growing family, about the future. I stood in my garage afterward, looking at the empty space where it had been. The charging cable still hung on the wall. I'd need to remove that eventually, but not today. I walked inside, made coffee, sat at my kitchen table. My phone sat silent beside me. Derek hadn't texted again. Jessica hadn't called. The house was quiet except for the furnace clicking on, warm air pushing through the vents. 2 months had passed since that Thursday night at Marcello's. 2 months since Derek took my keys and walked away. 2 months since I'd taken back what was mine. I still didn't know if I'd done the right thing, not morally. Legally, absolutely, but morally that was more complicated. He was my son, Paula's son. The boy I'd taught to drive, to be responsible, to respect other people. Somewhere along the way, he'd forgotten those lessons, or decided they didn't apply to him, or convinced himself that age negated a lifetime of competence. And I taught him otherwise, the hard way, the public way, the permanent way. My coffee went cold while I sat there thinking. Outside, afternoon light faded toward evening. Another day ending, another week closer to winter. The phone stayed silent, and I stayed alone in my kitchen, wondering if Derek was sitting in his office right now, eating lunch by himself, driving that used Civic home to a wife who resented the downgrade, living with the consequences of assumptions he should never have made. Wondering if he'd learned anything, wondering if we'd ever sit across a table from each other again and talk like father and son instead of adversaries. Some questions don't have answers yet. Some lessons take time to sink in. I finished my cold coffee, rinsed the mug, and went to work in my garage. The woodworking project I'd started before all this still needed finishing. Hands busy, mind occupied, time passing. That's all any of us can do. Keep moving forward, keep doing what needs doing, and wait to see what comes next. 3 months after the repossession, I sat in Vincent's office signing updated documents. Will revision, power of attorney updates, property documentation with every detail clarified. No ambiguity left anywhere. Vincent slid the final paper across his desk. There, everything's clear now. No room for misunderstanding about who owns what. Should have done this years ago. You trusted your son. That's not wrong, Robert. Misplaced trust is still a mistake. Vincent leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking. How are you holding up? I pulled out my wallet, opened it to Paula's photo. Small portrait from our 40th anniversary, 2 years before the cancer. She would have known how to handle this better. She was the one who could reach him. You did what you had to do. Doesn't make it feel good. Vincent nodded, didn't push. We finished the paperwork, shook hands. I drove home in the Volvo, the one Derek had taken keys to that Thursday night. It ran fine, always had. That afternoon, I was in the garage working on an old bookshelf I'd been refinishing when the doorbell rang. I set down the sandpaper, wiped my hands on my work pants, walked to the front door. Derek stood on the porch, alone, no Jessica. No phone visible, no audience. He wore jeans and a plain sweater, not his usual work clothes. His face looked thinner than I remembered. Tired, I stepped back, come in. We sat in the living room. Afternoon light came through the windows Paula had picked out 30 years ago, the ones with the pale blue curtains she'd sewn herself. The house felt too quiet. Derek sat forward on the couch, hands clasped between his knees, the silence stretched. Finally he spoke. I was wrong about all of it. I waited. I was embarrassed. By having a dad who's older than my friends' dads. By you showing up to things in that old Volvo while my colleagues drive new cars. By you wearing those same 3 sweaters everywhere. I wanted to seem, he paused, searching for words, in control. Successful, like I came from success. You did come from success. Your mother and I built a good life. I know, I just wanted it to look different, so you made me look incompetent. Yes, the furnace clicked on. Warm air whispered through the vents. Keep going, I said. Derek's voice was steady but quiet. I never actually thought you were confused or unsafe. I just needed to justify what I was doing. If you were incompetent, then I was being responsible. If you were declining, then I was being a good son. But you weren't declining. I was just being cruel. My throat went tight. The same feeling I'd had that morning in the garage, looking at the charging cable, remembering teaching him to drive. You're not getting the car back, I know. Derek looked up at me. I'm not here about the car. Then why are you here? To apologize, to ask if, eventually, we can fix this. I don't know. He nodded slowly, stood to leave. Derek, he turned. You filmed me being humiliated. You left me alone at a restaurant. You told people, your boss, your colleagues, your friends, that I was a burden. Those things don't go away with one apology. I know, but you came here. Alone. Without excuses. That's something. It's a start. Maybe I stood too. We'll see. He walked to the door, stopped with his hand on the knob. Dad, yes, I'm sorry for all of it. I know. He left. I watched through the window as he got into the used Civic parked at the curb, drove away slowly. I stood there for a long time after he was gone. Weeks later, I was driving past MedTech Solutions on my way to the hardware store. I saw Derek in the parking lot getting into that Civic. He didn't see me. I kept driving, small satisfaction watching him experience consequences, but also sadness. I taught him to drive in an empty parking lot 26 years ago. Patient afternoons, me in the passenger seat, him nervous and eager behind the wheel. Never imagined teaching him about ownership and respect this way. Never imagined it would hurt us both, but some lessons can't be learned any other way. If you've ever been underestimated because of your age, let me know in the comments. Has someone ever assumed you were incapable of something you'd been doing successfully for decades? Have you had to remind someone that respect isn't negotiable, regardless of how old you get? Derek thought my quiet nature meant weakness. He thought my age meant incompetence. He thought my generosity meant I'd forgotten who owned what. Those were his mistakes to make and his lessons to learn. The Tesla's gone now. Sold it to a young couple expecting their first child. I hope they have better luck with family than I did. I kept the Volvo. It runs fine, gets me where I need to go. That's all any of us really need, the ability to get where we're going under our own power. Derek and I talk occasionally now. Short calls, careful topics. Maybe someday we'll rebuild what was broken. Maybe we won't, but I sleep fine either way because I know who I am. I'm not confused. I'm not incompetent. I'm not a burden. I'm a 72-year-old man who knows exactly what he owns, exactly what he's owed, and exactly when to stop letting someone treat him like he's neither. Sometimes the best lesson you can teach is letting someone learn what happens when they take something that isn't theirs to take. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply take back what's yours and walk away with your dignity intact. Until next time, remember, quiet doesn't mean weak, age doesn't mean incompetent, and ownership means exactly what the paperwork says it means. Respect isn't inherited, it's earned. And when someone forgets that, sometimes the best teacher is natural consequences. I poured another cup of coffee and looked out the kitchen window at the garden I'd planted last spring. The perennials were dormant now, waiting for next year. Winter always comes, but spring follows. Things grow back given time and patience. Some things do anyway.